Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. I'm Reed Cowan. So we are watching in real time these devastating and deadly wildfires in Los Angeles County. 5 dead, thousands of structures leveled. We don't know how many of those are businesses and how many of those are homes. It is just too urgent of a situation right now to get a specific count. We can tell you in recent moments, officials lifted some evacuation orders in Hollywood, but many of the people go back to find nothing. They're out of their homes. Just look at that. That is a huge swath of one city there leveled. There are 5 fires that we're watching now in total. The 2 biggest fires are about 40 miles away from each other, each more than 10,000 acres in size. So let's start with the Eaton fire. It's about 3 times as big as LAX. If you've flown in and out of LAX, just multiply that by 3. That's how huge that fire is. The Palisades fire, roughly a fifth the size of Philadelphia. Still no containment on those 2 fires. So let's talk more about numbers. Because of those numbers that we just told you about by way of just acreage, roughly 179,000 people seeing scenes like this on the run, just like firefighters are. Evacuation orders. Those numbers coming to us from officials who are watching in real time homes burned to the ground, neighborhood by neighborhood. More than 1,300 structures burned or destroyed. More than 60,000 other structures at this hour still under threat. Some of those, by the time you watch your dinner time headlines, will be gone. And just this morning, the LA County Sheriff's Department announced 20 arrests already made for those who decided to go in and steal from people who had already lost so much amidst the fires. Listen to this.
We continue to conduct roving patrols, manning hard road closures, providing security in evacuation areas to prevent anyone who may be tempted to engage in criminal behavior like looting. It was mentioned earlier before by the supervisor, and I'm going to make this crystal clear to everybody out there. Over last night and this morning, we are up to 20 individuals who chose to go into our areas and deprive these poor people who have been through so much of their property. Absolutely unacceptable. And I'm going to give direction to our department members. As you know, when we have an evacuation order by law, if you remain in that area, you are guilty of a misdemeanor. If you commit certain crimes, it could jump up to a felony. I'm going to be asking our employees to start enforcing that. That is very different than a curfew. Why? Because it's 24/7. I don't have to wait for the sun to go down or the sun to come up. If you are in one of these areas and you do not belong there, you are going to be subject to arrest.
And they mean it. And, you know, when you hear about looters and you think, well, wait a minute, the homes are leveled. Keep in mind, fire jumps. So one home is standing, others are burned on a street. What is certain is most people are not there by their homes. And so that means that looters are seeing an opportunity. So that is a strong word from law enforcement. If you do it, you'll be punished. You'll be caught. Now, let's talk about the other reality, and that is the fact that those dry conditions can actually blow in flaming embers into those neighborhoods, like we've said for days. 1 home will survive, 5 homes will fall. We're talking about the worst dry conditions. So a lot of people have already lost their homes because of that phenomenon, with something on fire blowing on wind. Now, there are human touchstones to this. We wanted to introduce you to somebody that our crews met and very much felt for. 91-year-old Dale Short lived his whole life in his Pasadena home. It went up in flames. Listen.
I'm going to break down again. That's what I feel. It's my whole life.
Everything was in there.
So Short says he lived in that home for 6 decades. It was the place where his children were raised. Think about the Christmases and the Hanukkahs and the family celebrations, the challenges that happened underneath that roof and the life planning. But he says he's tough at the age of 90, and he will start all over again. That's all that's left of everything he worked to build up in his life. So we also know people are stepping forward. Likely you're seeing on social media people saying, hey, I have a house, come lean on me. And now we're seeing some corporate responsibility as well. Airbnb providing people displaced by the fires raging there in Los Angeles with temporary housing and for free. They're doing it in partnership with the nonprofit 211 LA. And we can tell you right now, Airbnb is really focusing on those who've either lost homes or were forced to evacuate. That program is funded by Airbnb and some private donations and hosts who have said, look, we have a home, we'll give a home. So go ahead and offer it at free or even discount rates during these emergencies. Jess, we see the raging fires. We know the wind that's pushing them. But we also, during these times, see many people step forward to help, are better angels and reminding us that community matters, that we need each other, and that people are good.
And that whole community is such a strong one as is. And so as we head into the coming days, you'll continue to watch amazing stories come out of such devastation. One thing I want to talk about is just those who aren't directly impacted by the fire are still dealing with poor air quality widespread throughout Los Angeles, though. And as the winds start to shift as we head into this weekend's forecast, they're going to notice it a lot more in areas that haven't seen such dense smoke. So let's start off with the map real fast. What I want to show you is the red flag warning and the high wind warnings that are in effect right now widespread throughout Southern California. Heading into this weekend's forecast, we're still dealing with low relative humidity. All that color down there shows you what the National Weather Service has issued. So that low relative humidity mixed with these strong winds are two key ingredients when it comes to these red flag warnings lasting until Friday. And air quality alerts too widespread throughout this area due to these 5 fires burning. Some of the smaller ones off into those mountains like the Lydia fire and the Hearst fire, but the large ones, the Eaton fire in the Palisades, those are the ones that are causing so much devastation, and these were fueled by such strong winds. As we take a look at the wind conditions, I mean, we had 100-mile-per-hour wind gusts in Altadena just yesterday, and we take a look at other areas like Burbank, 84-mile-per-hour winds. It only takes about a 15 to 20-mile-per-hour wind gust for some of these spot fires to occur, and the reason why these strong Santa Ana winds are still lasting into the forecast today has to do with a strong area of high pressure offshore mixed with a strong low area of pressure just inland, and that together creates this pressure gradient that allows for those winds to continue to push offshore into the overnight hours tonight, early morning hours tomorrow. And this is in dry communities that have barely received any rain. I mean, since last May, they got close to around 1/4 of an inch, but these dry communities are seeing the devastation from these strong winds continuing to fuel these fires. So here's where we're at right now. We head all the way over into areas like Hidden Springs, close to 50-mile-per-hour wind gust right now in live time. We forecast about 30 to 40 mile-per-hour winds in those exact same mountains as we head into the 2 o'clock hour today. As we head into the overnight hours tonight, the sun starts to set. Those winds don't die down just yet, and that also bleeds down into those lower elevated communities too, just along the foothills. We wake up tomorrow morning with a little bit of a shift in the forecast, though. The winds are going to start changing directions, and that's the exact setup that's going to allow for that smoke to kind of circulate its way back inland in areas like Los Angeles, all the way over into most of those beach communities too. So lots to talk about when it comes to that smoke and how concentrated it is right now just along those hills. This is impacting millions of people down into Los Angeles. We'll have more on that coming up in a bit and just how that's impacting them. But the weather, it's not it's those two ingredients alone, you know, relative humidity and winds. Those are the big reasons why we're concerned for those firefighters out there right now.
Just dries things out and makes the situation worse. Jess, thank you so much. So we've heard from President Joe Biden pledging a lot of federal disaster assistance to the people in California. And while the office of the presidency focuses on that state, so also do members of Congress. So we know this. People impacted need major emergency aid, and they're going to need it in a very big way. In fact, FEMA Director Deanne Criswell spoke about the importance of getting that aid to the people impacted there on the ground, regardless of politics. Let's listen into that.
You know, these types of tragedies that we're seeing right now in California, they don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. All of these people have been impacted. And the dedicated women and men at FEMA are going to continue to provide support to all of those people that have been impacted by this fire or these fires, as well as the work that we're continuing to do in Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida from Hurricanes Helene and Milton. We're going to continue to provide all of the services that they are eligible for and ensure that we are supporting them through their recovery process.
That word going out on CBS Mornings to our partners there. Big question for so many Californians, will they get that help? So let's bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Nikole, good to be with you today. Even before the fires, FEMA funds was really a major issue and some would say a sticking point among lawmakers. So walk us through the dilemmas where that is concerned and why some Democrats think that Californians may not get the assistance or the full assistance that they need.
Well, I think let's take a step back and keep in mind that in the government funding bill that passed at the end of last year, there was about $100 billion that was allocated for disaster relief and aid, mostly in part due to hurricanes Milton and Helene that the administrator referenced. But it's a significant pot of money and one that certainly FEMA can tap into to assist people in the state of California. That being said, Democratic leaders especially have said that Congress stands poised to provide additional assistance to the state of California if needed, if those types of emergency or disaster declarations come in. So they do have some money to work with. If they need more, Democratic lawmakers are certainly willing to contribute more on Congress's part. The question is if Republicans will be willing to do so as well. Certainly there is bipartisan concern about what is occurring out in California. Very disturbing images seeing many of these communities. I mean, I grew up in Southern California, seeing many of these communities go up in flames. So it is something that lawmakers are paying attention to and just kind of standing at the ready if needed.